Let's talk about making friends in your 20s versus your 30s. When you are in your 20s, making friends is so much about new. Like, hey, why do I feel like my friend circle isn't actually growing? My answer would always be to go out and meet more people. Something I've learned now being in my 30s is I could literally have like 3 friends total, but what really matters is not making new connections as much as deepening the connections that I already have. That's kind of a big reason why in my 20s I felt so lonely. I was always looking for like who's the next person I'm gonna meet and not how can I deepen the relationships I already have. I think my social life was a little bit stunted in my 20s because a lot of my energy was focused on trying to find a boyfriend. I was just like swiping my life away on those apps. In the same way how people in our generation have gotten way too specific around what they're looking for in a long-term partner. Like, I have an ambitious mindset. Do they have an ambitious mindset? I like to listen to this type of music. Do they like to listen to this type of music? I don't think we need to be so specific and picky about the characteristics of a person in order to be friends with them. I think instead we should be more picky just about like, how do they treat you? Do they at least reply to your texts? If they're late, like I am so many times, I'm so bad at replying to texts, are they at least apologetic when they reply back? If you tend to be the person who's always initiating in the relationship, do they at least 50% of the time say yes to the plans you propose? I feel like those are the things that are worth being picky about when it comes to making friends, not the more like surface level aspects. And that's something that I wish I knew sooner in my 20s and that I feel like I've learned now in my 30s. I think about my friends that I have now, and they're all so dear and precious to me. I don't think at a surface level we actually have all that much in common. That's okay. I have the internet, Facebook groups, social events, books to read to connect with my own interests. And I can certainly meet friends through that, but I don't think having those shared interests alone is enough to sustain a meaningful friendship. When I was in my 20s, I feel like a successful social moment for me would be if I was like out somewhere and seen doing something, air quotes, cool. I was sceney. I don't know how else to put it. I was sceney. And there's nothing wrong with finding a good scene, with finding good vibes and pursuing that. I still love those things. But I guess in my 30s, I've really embraced more of what I genuinely want to do and spend my time doing those things, even if they don't seem like cool. It's okay if it's grandma mode. I want it, and I love that for myself, and that's okay. Also in my 20s, I was always getting down on myself, subconsciously focusing on reasons why somebody wouldn't want to be friends with me. I was in this never-ending personal growth project on what are things about myself I should be improving in order to make myself more worthy of being friends with the types of people I thought I wanted to be friends with. It sounds so mean to myself to say out loud. I share it because I feel like it's something I've heard a lot of people in their 20s deal with. And if that's you, like, I'm just sharing this to normalize that. Maybe there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You don't have to fix those things. You should instead focus on being friends with the people who love those things about you. Here's an example. This is a good one. I am a very goody two-shoes, clean-cut type of person. Extremely. I think in my 20s, I felt I had to compensate for that to not be perceived as boring by being super down to do basically anything and everything else. If somebody proposed like a plan to try, I'd be like, I'm down. If somebody was like, let's go do this, I'd be like, I'm down. I was just down for everything. When I first moved to Austin, I met up with a friend from grad school. We hung out one night, and then she was like, oh, like my friend's having a birthday party. You should come tomorrow. I was like, great, I'm there. I need to make new friends. So I went, and the birthday party was jumping into the lake. There is Snake Island, I think it's called, in Lady Bird Lake, where there's a small island in the middle of this lake, in the middle of urban Austin, and you know that water is like dirty, okay? Like, that water is dirty. And everybody was like, yeah, the birthday party is we're gonna jump into this river water in the middle of a city, strap our six-packs onto our back, and swim across to this island and go party on this island literally called Snake Island. And I'm a goody two-shoes, I'm also a Virgo. I don't want to jump into toxic, dirty city water. I don't want to get bit by wild snakes on this island. It literally looked like it was gonna rain, okay? And I just stood on the edge of the water and I was like, hey guys, this isn't for me. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna leave. And I literally left. I did have that evening a lot of self-doubt where I was getting down on myself and judging myself like, oh, Sarah, you should be more open-minded. That was your chance to make friends. Don't you want to make fun, exciting, spontaneous friends? Like, la la. And I was like all getting down on myself. But now, as somebody like me in my 30s now, I look back on that moment and I'm actually so proud of myself. Because now in my 30s, like, I embrace my goody two-shoeness. And you know what? So do my friends. I love to bake. I love to cook. I love to do daytime things. Like, I'm such a morning girly. I don't for a second think any of my friends would expect me to jump into Town Lake and then swim to Snake Island in order to have a good time. Oh my god, who even does that? So now let's talk about making friends specifically in your 30s. Similar to your 20s, I feel like our 30s are filled with so many different eras. I'm relatively newer to my 30s. I'm in my early 30s. So I can't speak to all of them. If you can, I'd love for you to share, comment on this video. But some off the top of my head, you're in a committed partnership era. Maybe you're engaged, prepping for a wedding. Maybe you're newlywed. Maybe you've just had your first kid or two. Maybe you've gone through a divorce and are newly single. This has been a huge difference in my 30s. Are you ready? I incessantly initiate plans with my friends and almost never expect them to initiate plans in return. And I'm totally okay with it in my 20s. I almost judged if people would ask me to do things with them as whether or not they actually liked me and were friends with me. What I've learned in my 30s is that we are all busy, we are tired, we are all suffering from decision fatigue and information overload in the internet age. And I choose to believe that if my friends don't ask me to go do things with them, it's not because they don't value my friendship, they don't want to be friends with me. I think it's probably just because they're busy and they're tired, and when I reach out, I think they're so grateful and thankful. I'm thinking about my Austin friend group right now. There's maybe one person who will consistently invite me to go do things, but the other people in my friend group, they don't. And I don't even think twice about it. So if that is something that you find yourself self-conscious about, I invite you to choose to see it as maybe they're just tired. And hey, maybe that means I get to have more fun thinking up crazy fun plans for us to do. And they'll be so happy. And then I'll just be like the glue of the friend group. Like for me, I've already texted all my friends about this. We just got to find a day we're all free. I got a Ninja Creamy for the holidays. And I want to use my Ninja Creamy to make ice cream for everybody, and everybody could vote on our favorite ice cream flavors, and then we could use my Ninja Creamy to get all experimental, try to make it ourselves, and then have a picnic in the park. That sounds fun. I'm not mad that none of my friends came up with that. In my 20s, that type of thing would have took me out. I would have been like, oh my gosh, my friends don't like me. Now in my 30s, I'm choosing to just believe everybody is busy. You really never know what's going on with people. I choose to believe what people tell me instead of trying to mind read their quote-unquote real intention. If people are telling me they would love to do it, that sounds so fun, but they just can't on this day because XYZ, I choose to believe them. Pish posh kaposh. In my 30s, I have survived friend breakups. When did you have your first friend breakup? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes I still think back to those friend breakup times, and it still hurts. But something that has really helped me is I just think to myself, one of my mantras of life, everything happens for a reason. Everybody was in my life for a reason, even if it was only for a season. And sometimes I play this game with myself of I think back to my friend breakup. I just think back to like, oh, what was that gift that friendship gave me, even if it didn't last? And that honestly helps me so much. And that is a mindset I take to all of my friendships and even acquaintanceships in my 30s. If I never met them, I wouldn't have learned about X. If I hadn't have met them, I wouldn't have seen Y. And that just makes me feel so much happier. And it helps me feel more at peace with the very small, close friend circle I have. And it is so small, you guys, okay? It is so small. I have very few friends, and I love it. I'm always open to new ones, but I'm not upset if I don't make new ones. I'm not. Just not. This is a major difference, making friends in your 20s versus your 30s, especially in your early 20s when maybe you are in school. It is really easy to have built-in places to just see people regularly. You're seeing people on the quad, you're seeing people in class, you're seeing people in your a cappella club, like I did, because I was in a cappella. You just have all of these like natural community built-in touch points, kind of like the village situation that I talked about in one of my past videos, popping up over here. But in your 30s, especially if you're in a committed relationship where you spend a lot of your time with your partner, especially if you have kids, whatever's going on, it is hard to have those built-in touch points with people, especially if you work from home like me. So in your 30s and even your late 20s, to be honest, just like as you grow older, you have to treat making friends a little bit more like dating, not because of the super specific criteria, because we're not doing specific criteria to gatekeep ourselves from potentially wonderful connections. We're not doing that. But you got to make plans with people, and you got to ask people to do things. And you gotta ask them out. You gotta ask them out to coffee. And then you gotta ask them to go do something again. And you gotta ask them to do something again. In the same way that if you were dating, you gotta ask somebody out on dates time after time in order to actually build a relationship. Let's do a rapid fire Q&A. Okay, let's look at these questions. Where have I in my 30s made friends with the same mindset as me? And I think this can apply to your 20s too, but if you're in your 30s, this definitely applies. Honestly, for me, synagogue. So I'm Jewish. Ever since I've entered my 30s, I've been going to Jewish event things and synagogue stuff a lot more. The people that I meet at synagogue may have overlapping values with me. I don't want to say we have all the same values and we don't all believe in the same things, and I think that's wonderful. But there are just maybe some certain shared values or shared pieces of our upbringing are really wonderful things to just bond with people over and build trust with them, and has contributed to a very overlapping mindset. That's actually like an overlooked place to make friends for some of us in our generation. Like, don't overlook, if you are a religious person, religious communities that you vibe with. If you're not a religious person, just think about like, where could I go where people have not all the same, but some of the same values as me. Not necessarily interests, but values. There's a difference. Does your social life die after 30? I know when I was in my 20s, I fully thought it would. I'm happy to report, no, it does not. I think it actually gets better because you just feel more confident and at peace with yourself, and you become your own friend first. It like casts a beautiful golden sparkling light over everything. It just makes everything better when you have that confidence in your own self first. Oh, another cool thing about your social life in your 30s, your friends are a lot more diverse. You have friends who might be way older than you, who might be way younger than you. Why does this happen? I think it's because in your especially early 20s, you're meeting a lot of friends through school, and then maybe when you first start work, you're meeting a lot of your friends are fellow new hires like yourself. And I just think as we grow older, we're more confident in ourselves and we're able to overlook surface level differences to find some of the things we have in common underneath. What's something I miss about my 20s social life that I think you should cherish if you are in your 20s? I'm going to say this because I am tired right now. In your 20s, I think you should cherish the energy you have. All of that stay up late capability, if that makes you happy, enjoy. Go do all those late night, you need all the energy to do them things. I also think in your 20s, don't be afraid to try to connect as friends with different types of people. And if they don't work out, they don't work out. That's okay. I think in your 20s, a lot of it is about finding out what you don't like as much as about what you do like. So just because you spent time trying to get to know a person and realize they weren't for you, I don't think it's like a failure or a loss. I think that's exactly what should be happening in your 20s. And honestly, probably for life. And of course, the $1,000,000 question, where do I make friends in my 30s? I make friends through Jewish community stuff, through my partner. I have made friends through women in business communities because obviously I am an ambitious girly and I've loved that about myself. I used to be so self-conscious about that and I used to think, oh, that means I have like no chill and it's bad. But actually, now it's one of my favorite things about myself. And honestly, like some of my closest friends are my friends from high school. And that's it. Thanks for watching.